And with that, I wish to hand over now to Pernille for the session.
Thank you, and hello to you, some of whom I know and most of you whom I don't know. And even though, of course, I support completely what Edigo just shared about turning your cameras off, I want you to know that I love when I can see people. So if you don't mind about your picture being seen, thank you, Casper, thank you, Tracy. It is so reassuring for me just to see that I'm speaking to people. Okay, yes. So a warm good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, whether you've got spring or fall or where on this sphere called the Earth you are calling in from. I'm so excited about the fact that we are able to meet this way, and I'm having you right here in my little space, even though you are everywhere on the globe almost. Yeah, so feel free to write hello in the chat and write where you're coming from if you haven't written it in your naming of yourself, so that we get this sense of a global community that excites me so much. Yeah, so my name is Pernille Plantener. If you want to say my name and you're afraid of not getting it right, don't worry. I'm not sensitive to how my name is spelled. Sometimes people just call me the letter P. I respond to that as well. And I'm a CNVC certified trainer, been so since 2011. And I'm volunteering my time to lead this session in order to support the Center for Nonviolent Communication. And as Edigo just said, we are quite passionate about making these tools available to people no matter what their resources are. So that's a strong reason for doing a fundraiser, in order to be able to offer scholarships for IITs for people who want to go there but cannot afford it. And this said, please know that you are welcome whether you donate or not. So I'm committed to presenting material for you today that will bring you inspiration and value, and I just want you to know that. So please feel welcome whether you donate or not. And this presentation is about repair work, which is a skill or a path that I'm ongoingly more and more in love with. Perfection is so boring compared to imperfection and repair. Imperfection and repair makes us, or gives us, an opportunity to connect, whereas perfection is just perfection. Yeah, so that will be the theme of the next almost 2 hours. So as you see, if you have your screen turned on, and if you're on phone, you will, I can share with you that I'm a white, middle-class, middle-aged woman. I'm a grandmother, and I call in from Denmark, which is a very safe space to live in this world. And I'm born here and I lived here most of my life. So I'm holding a lot of privilege, lots of privilege. And I'm very aware of that. Yes, so my life, I'm dedicated to use my resources, my privileges to support the transition into a world that is sustainable and where everybody's needs matter. And that I'm so fortunate that I've been able to make a simple living out of that, so I can continue doing that. I met CNVC or NVC in 2002, so that's 19 years ago. And that was right after I'd eventually succeeded in leaving my my ex-husband, with whom I had a very tragic marriage that had been going on for 13 years. And by then, age 40, I've had felt so much hopelessness and helplessness that I had given up hope that I would ever be able to fulfill my dreams. And they had been so vivid for me in my earlier years, but after those 13 years of an abusive marriage, I felt like my life was over. And what was left for me was to see if I could mitigate the harm that my two children had experienced as a result of living in a home, growing up in a home with verbal and physical abuse. And now, 19 years later, I can see that it became so much more than that, or it is becoming so much more than that, because I'm living a life where I'm actually realizing my dreams. Or actually, my life today exceeds my dreams from then. And I would love to cascade what I've learned onto you in order to inspire you to keep dreaming and to build connection from your heart in your circles. Yeah. So this presentation is about what I've learned about connecting with myself and with others, and my compass of how to navigate this extremely difficult and complex field of human relationships. Yeah. Oh my God, connecting with animals are so much easier than connecting with humans. Right. But I would love to just hear a few voices before I start. Yeah, I see some of you have written in the chat. Anybody who would like to say hello, and what made you choose to be here, even perhaps in a time of your day that is inconvenient. So I'd love to hear from a few of you. So please just unmute yourself and speak. Yes, please, Insi.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Here is at 10 to 10. 10 past 10 in the morning. I'm here because I really excited to hear all over the world different souls, different persons' experiences, and I really engaged in CNVC for last 3 years. Every week, we are practicing with our communities, small communities, but it's really enlightened and made differences in my life. I'd like to share this. Thank you.
Thank you, Insi. Am I saying your name correctly?
Inji, yes,
Inji,
almost
Inji.
correct.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
This is Jacqueline, and oh, Ingrid, go for it. I'm happy to wait. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Jacqueline. Okay, I'm I'm a bit embarrassed. Okay, also for my English, but I'm happy to share something because I like to be in this space of community. So it's really important for me in this moment to feel in a safe space where I can, touch the humanity. The reason why I decided to speak up is also for your words, Pernille. I don't, so you told that it's not so. Okay, so just.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Celebrating that I have the courage to speak up for the first time in such a big group.
Thank you, Ingrid. And Jacqueline.
Okay, well, hello everyone. I am so inspired by your introduction. I'm not sure how to say your name. Is it Pernille?
Yes, that's fine.
Pernille.
Almost perfect.
Okay. And I'm in abundance with online courses and some communities. And a friend told me about this event, and I just feel so lucky. And I'm staying up. I may stay up till 5 in the morning because I'm just so excited about the sense of unity and inner connection that I'm experiencing from these workshops so far tonight. I'm really excited about this.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Oh, so touching that you stay up in the night to be here.
Very fun.
Okay. Just give a few more seconds. Caspar, you would like to check in.
Yeah, I decided to join. Like my initial impulse to get interested in NVC, which was sparked, not to lie to you, like 2 or 3 days ago. So I'm absolutely fresh with this, and I'm very much in the process, which when you're reading a book sounds very, very easy, but when you start doing that on the workshops that are having, on this conference, it's not, especially at the beginning. But my initial intention was that, like recently I went through a serious breakup for me, and I want to work on my own to get better with relationships. And that is not to get back the relationship that I had. I mean, that would be nice, of course. But in general, I want to be, ready for whatever relationship is there for me. And I think it takes work, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Caspar. Yeah. So good to hear that you just found NVC and you're coming here and how you would like to apply it in your life. Indeed, very reassuring. Okay.
Have a hand up, Pernille.
There's a hand up, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, good morning, Pernille and everyone. I just realized that maybe you don't read the chat and maybe you will not read it. I don't know. And I put it there and I just realized that this is an opportunity to tell you in person how much I adore your session on fear of being known and shame during the Resonance Summit. I was crying for 2 days and that was so moving and touching for me that this is, I think, one of the most powerful things in my life during, I think, my lifetime. Thank you very much, because this is the thing that I was suffering from for all my life. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. What a precious feedback from me. I'm very, very happy to hear this. Yes, and so what I shared at that other gathering was that somebody had told me that they had carried a secret all their life, and that was that they were not good enough. And just hearing this, then I know that I've had the same impact on you that she had on me then 30 years ago. And how beautiful that is, the cascading, so beautiful. Thank you. Yes, and it is true that I'm not reading the chat here, so perhaps I'll just check in with Daya. Is there anything else in the chat that you'd like to read out loud?
There's just one other note from Sarah. It says, "Thank you for such an open and heartfelt share." Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes. It's been easier to be open as I've worked with this material for several years. It wasn't always, I assure you. I've been a very closed person. Yeah. So let me start my presentation here. So when I met NVC, and that was back in 2002, after having left this marriage, I loved the simplicity and the promise it held. I was coming from a truly disorganized, distressed state of being, in hopelessness, and also in excitement, because now my life was finally more simple. I could live my life on my own terms, or rather on the terms of my children, who were 7 and 10 by then. And NVC offered me order and understanding of my own unmet needs that had been so building up through the time with my ex-husband. So I learned the steps, how my feelings were not dictated by him. So when I was angry or felt trapped or enraged, furious, or ashamed or desperate or hopeless, I learned that it was not him that planted those feelings in me. It was actually because I had some needs that were tragically unmet. And so my healthy human needs, which I assume I share with every other human being and lots of mammals and plants and other living beings on this earth, were about care and kindness, and about mattering, and about fairness, and lots of other needs. But these were very important for me, the need for care. I remember I saw a psychotherapist at some time, actually an NVC trainer, shortly after the breakup, and he said, so does that mean that you didn't have a mutually caring relationship? And just that concept of mutual care and mutually caring relationship blew my mind. I didn't know that that was what I was missing. I didn't know it was possible. I didn't know that other people had that. I'd been gaslighted so much that I'd sort of segued into an understanding that what I experienced was normal. But yeah, care, mutual care, so important. And then it was natural for me to ask myself, why did I stay? So I was learning that everything I do is an attempt to meet one of these universal shared human needs. So what made me stay? And of course, obviously it was safety, because he had threatened to kill me or to kill the children if I left him. So safety was what I reached into first. But I had actually left him 3 times before. Twice I'd stayed with family for a while, and he hadn't come after me to try to kill me. And the 3rd time I went to a women's shelter, and after that I had my own apartment for 1.5 years, and then I went back. So what was it? What need of mine was it that made me come back, that was fulfilled for me while staying with him? And it dawned to me so strongly that it was the need for belonging. He was the first person who had ever given me an experience of belonging. I didn't feel I mattered or I belonged in my family of origin. I was the last of 3, and my mom was impatient to get out on the labor market again, and my father was in distress. But he was so jealous. He could be furious in jealousy, and he would sort of have me right here in the corner of his elbow. And he would say, you belong to me at this spot of the land, which is mine. You belong here. And there was something that was just very sweet in that, even though it was also very painful. It was actually so sweet that it made up for the verbal abuse and for the violence and for the shame of living in such a context and what I allowed my children to experience. Yeah. And actually 2 years after the final break, of course, we kept seeing each other because we had these children that needed to move between us, and I chose to live very close to him in order for us to have ease around the children in their schools. And once I sat on the bench in the garden with him, and he said to me, "Why did you told me you loved me? I know you were lying." And he'd asked me that question in all those years of marriage, and I would cross my fingers behind my back and I would say, "Oh, I love you, honey. Of course I love you." And he'd known all the time that it wasn't true. And this time I told him the truth. I said to him, "Because you are the only person who've ever given me a feeling of belonging." And that was all I said. And he sat there right beside me, and I'm getting tears in my eyes as I remember, even though I've told it many times before. So tears just came down on his cheeks. and he raised his hand and he said, "That's enough, don't say anything else." And that moment was a turning point in our relationship. For him, I guess it was lifting off the burden of guilt that he, of course, carried of the way he had treated me. And for me, it was stepping into responsibility. So that was indeed a sweet moment that made us start engaging as friends. And now, where we are grandparents together, we meet each other regularly at family gatherings. I see him as a dear friend. We've had many repair conversations. Last time was 1.5 years ago, where I'd written a piece about my experiences and I wanted to do a lecture. And he said, "Oh, perhaps I can join you in that lecture. Wouldn't that be cool?" And I thought, wow, a lecture about verbal abuse and coercion. Would you really like to do that? Yes, he said. So I let him read the presentation I'd made. And he said, "Okay, can you come? We need to speak." And we didn't, I mean, there were things he hadn't realized still. And he didn't want to go along with me on these lectures, but he knows that I'm doing them and what I'm saying. So what a transformation in our relationship. I look at him with lots of tenderness today and lots of happiness that I'm not in his inner circle anymore. And he's taking responsibility for his life and sought treatment as well. I need to say this too. So that was about the needs and the transformation, that just acknowledging the needs that are driving us, what that holds in us. And on my NVC journey, I also learned about requests. And in one practice group after another, I would rehearse the requests I could have of myself and others, requests as strategies I would offer myself, that I could either ask somebody else to take on, or myself, that would make it more likely that my needs would be met. So a request would sound like this: would you be willing to pick up the children today, in order for me to have a chance to rest because I'm so tired? No? Okay. So let's discuss what might be another option for me. Oh, you'll pick them up tomorrow? Or you propose somebody else could pick them up? Oh, thank you. So it's this engaging in a dialogue, proposing what would make my life more wonderful without demanding that the other person do it, but actually respecting their needs just as much as my own needs, yet staying firmly with my own needs. So seeking for strategies, alternative strategies, if this person might say no. So that was the whole area of requests that I still find sometimes difficult, to be really precise, really clear, and keep this invitation for dialogue in mind. And I also became aware of my own judgments, of how my brain that had been following me my whole life, how it had a preference of categorizing and judging and diagnosing and really putting everything in boxes with labels on. And that I learned was a turn off for connection. And it was actually also a turn off from my own more nuanced experience of life. So when I would see somebody and say, oh, that's that kind of a person, it would just dissolve my curiosity. But if I would say, this person is doing something strange, and if I could master a little bit of curiosity, then I could approach them and say, hey, how come you're doing this? Or I could just hold them in my internal system with the uncertainty, the unknowingness, and instead then relate to exactly what I observed or what I observe. So I see you doing this and that. I hear you saying this and that. I'm wondering what is driving you. Or I'm wondering what's driving them. So that is sort of the 4 steps of NVC: the observation, the feeling, the need, and the request for action that I learned. And as it gradually integrated in me, not just as strategy for how I related to other people, but simply integrated as a way of thinking and relating to myself as well, I started liking myself better, simply. So I'd always wanted to get away from whom I was and get into something different that was not me at the actual moment, but who would be something that I would be more satisfied with presenting to the world. So at that time, I hadn't come to a deep sense of self-acceptance and self-warmth, which is possible. So I've got to that now. There's hope. So please, if you are able to, consider having that as a goal rather than changing yourself. At the time of my CNVC certification 10 years ago, I still put an effort into showing up the right way. And when I found myself in conflict with my teenage children, my partner or others, I wanted them to understand my intention, because I'd learned from NVC that there is an intention behind everything. And if they said, Pernille, you're hurting me. Oh, so this is my intention, I would say. So actually, it's just a more genius way of self-justification. So it's telling my intention. It is justification. It's nothing else than that. But it felt so true because that was what I was connected to. And I haven't really, as far as I see myself, been strongly attached to my strategies. I was very happy to negotiate other strategies and also to apologize. So the NVC way of apologizing is not called an apology. It is like expressing my regret that I've caused hurt, rather than saying I apologize. But so I became fluent in all that. And you could say I was in some way stuck in a perfection paradigm, that if we just all understand each other's reasons, there will be no wars anymore. So I will be transparent with my reasons. And if something clashes, I need to be more transparent, and I will explore this with you. And of course, I was also eager to hear the other person's reasons. But I hadn't really understood the essence of what an efficient repair is. So let me just check if there are any questions so far before I move into sort of what I really want to share with you. Okay. Doesn't seem to be the case. You can also write your questions in the chat, and Daya will interrupt me now and then. And so your questions will be named that way. So a really painful argument happened for me 4.5 years ago. I can't believe it's only 4.5 years ago. It feels like it's a lifetime ago. I was working in a US-based company offering coaching worldwide, online coach trainings, and we had a gathering. So I was in the United States, in Kansas, and met my colleagues over there from India and from the States and from several other places. So we had 4 days party with each other, but it wasn't the party I remember most clearly. It was when I was, so I was setting up a training in Europe, and I wanted a team of presenters, and I was picking them, and now I get this huge shame attack, and I gotta say this. I was not so satisfied with how they looked. So there were 5 people in this team plus me, and the 4 of them were Black people. And so I named that I would like to exchange one of the Black people with a white person in order to have more balance in our skin colors. And when I said that, something happened in the room, and one woman walked out right there in front of me, just kind of like right here, and she shouted me into the face, so her saliva covered me. She said, "You are such a racist." Please mute your phones. Yeah. And can you imagine little me there, a European, a Danish privileged person? I didn't even know I was white by then. I just knew that I had no prejudice against people with other skin colors than my own. So how could I be a racist? And I tried to explain my reasons, marketing purpose in Europe, in order to reach the, oh, it's so embarrassing. To reach my target audience. If it was all Black people, I wouldn't be able to reach them, I thought. And my colleague didn't even hear me. She shouted louder and louder. And everybody in the room, it was a big conference room, and everybody stopped, and some moved a bit closer, but nobody took the bullets for me, which was also devastating. They just allowed this to happen. Ah, I cried. I claimed I was not a racist, and she walked out. So I spent the next 24 hours just sort of sobbing my way through this experience, and still having this sense that she hadn't understood my intention. I mean, think about United Colors of Benetton. You would always see people with different skin colors in the advertisements. And in our own company, there would always be people of different skin colors. Wouldn't that be by purpose? I was completely certain it was by purpose. Why couldn't I do the same? So I tried to reconnect with her the next day, and the same thing happened again. She shouted at me again that I understood nothing. And I couldn't reach her. And so after the retreat, I sat in the airport, and another person of color, another Black person, approached me. And she said, "Usually I don't take these conversations because I'm so exhausted of them. But because I like you, I would like to educate you a little bit." And her voice was so soft that she melted into me, and I melted completely. And she said, "You know what? It is so painful for us because we have been chosen or chosen not to be included, been not included because of our skin color. And that's the trauma you're triggering. Don't ever reference our skin color when you're choosing people. Will you understand this?" And she said a lot more. And when I came home, I had some conversations with her, and I'm so grateful still for her making the effort to educate me. So now I understand, I see the whole culture. I see that I was speaking into a 400-year-old trauma, and there was no way I could not trigger these people by saying what I said. I might have been able to propose my invitation in a completely different way that would have landed differently. I could have said, "I know I'm a white person. I know this is my audience. I'm wondering, will you discuss with me how we can make an appealing video for these people, taking everything into account, both the content and how we appear on the screen and everything. Please, especially those of you who have a history of being left out because of your skin color, will you support me in setting up the criteria for choosing?" My God, how different that would have been. Oh. So I noticed that I needed to decolonize my own mind, and I signed up for classes with Roxy Manning, who also has, I think, at least one of the sessions here at this worldwide gathering, who has done such a tremendous work with me and lots of other people to make it visible how our minds are still colonized, no matter what skin color we have, simply because we've been brought up in this world. So I shouldn't generalize as I just did with us all, but at least that many of us, and I've been very grateful for what she's taught me. Yeah, and what I also learned from Roxy was that insisting on the other person to know my intentions, my noble purpose, wouldn't heal their wounds. And it was easy for me to think about my ex-husband. So if he came to me and told me, which he actually has done, and told me, yeah, I want you to understand why I did what I did, would it heal my wounds? Certainly it would support me a lot to know that he would know that he had inflicted pain on me. But way more important than that would be if he would ask me, so how was it for you, Pernille? Tell me about the worst moments. Let me sit with you. If you allow so, I'll hold your hand. I'll wipe your tears. Let me know how I hurt you. Why? What a difference that would make. So he has told me his reasons. He had a lifelong condition of anxiety, and that sort of made sense. And that was another breakthrough in our relationship and in my understanding of him. But it didn't heal my wounds. His noble intentions of abusing me? No, no. And especially then, when it was still very open and an open wound, I wouldn't enjoy that. And it's easy for me to see that if I insist on being understood by those I've inflicted pain on, I'm not just hurting them, I'm actually continuing the hurt by burdening them with my pain of having caused hurt. The hurt that I don't want to deal with. It's almost like pleading for forgiveness. If you just understand me right, you'll be able to forgive me, won't you? Won't you please forgive me? Because I can't bear the pain of having hurt you. Oh my God, I need to take responsibility and bear the burden of my actions and do whatever repair I can, which starts with knowing accurately how it was for the other person or the other people. So I've got an example with my daughter, who is now 26 years old. And we had a situation recently. We are in a COVID lockdown at the moment, and until recently she's been working at a COVID unit at a hospital as a medical student. And her boyfriend would come here to help us doing some things, and she would like to come along with us. So we did this exchange on text messages, and she said, is it okay I come along as well? And I texted her, no. And she said, does that mean that I'm not welcome? And I texted back, it's not that you are not welcome, but COVID-19 is not welcome. So let's wait. And then when the boyfriend, so that was all. And I had no connection with her, but I did have a sense of unease. I could tell that there was something wrong. And when her boyfriend came the next week, he told me that she was devastated, that she felt she was not welcome in her mom's house. Oh my God, I'm feeling this jolt of headache as I'm sharing this. I'm certainly not done self-empathizing around this anymore. So I engaged in a conversation with her. Luckily, she was willing to have a conversation with me that day. So would it have helped her, supported her in her very hurt feelings if I had told her that, yeah, you know, there are reasons for me really not wanting to get COVID, and no. So I heard how it had hurt her, what implications it had had for her, what old memories it had triggered, and also that she had told me, and I'd forgotten that bit, that she could go every day because of her work. She could easily go and get a COVID test right before coming. And for her, that would be, I mean, then she would be safe and we would be safe. And wouldn't I see it that way? Yes, of course I would. I'd forgotten she had that access to COVID tests. Oh, so I didn't defend myself in any way. I received her bewilderment and her hurt. And her distress about having told me something that was important in this exchange and that I'd forgotten, that she told me something I'd forgotten. And also that she was sort of trying to excuse me that it would be my partner who would be the one who'd said no. And so she had some anguish towards her as well. And of course, I shouldn't defend that either. I would only receive that too. So I was with her in every word of what she said. And I gave her a deep apology, good old apology for not looking for alternatives and just saying no. And I had a sense that we mended what had been broken. I offered her to come and pick her up right away, even if it was more than an hour's drive away. And she said, I knew you would offer this, and no. And she even reminded me that that had been the case before, that I'd actually said no to her before due to COVID. And when I realized blah, 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 then I was willing to come and pick her up. So how does that leave me with guilt? Huge guilt. And that is not for my daughter to relieve me of. So of course I've sought empathy for this. Yeah. So I wouldn't be able to navigate human relationships without having a few empathy buddies I could reach out to and ask them to support me, understanding myself, to offer me empathy until I'm able to hold myself with empathy. And that would be about my guilt as a mother who's not loving enough, who's not attentive enough, who's not putting my daughter first, but other things before her, as so many times before. And finally getting to a sense of seeing my own innocence and holding myself with love and care, even though I'm not perfect. Yeah. So when we manage to take full responsibility for the harm we've caused, which is very often unintended, inflicting harm is usually unintended. Even when we don't understand, when we don't grasp the pain we've caused, when we might see the other person as too sensitive. You're too sensitive, honey. Can't you see this from another angle? I didn't mean to hurt you. Even when it's somebody whom we see as having a reaction we can't understand. When we manage to do so and offer our undivided, warm, welcoming attention to them, to understand how it was for the other person, the conflict mending can strengthen the relationship, as it did with my daughter, and as I've experienced with my ex-husband, and in several other instances with my partner big time. That's what we do all the time.
Pernille, there's a question about how do you apologize with NVC words when you hurt people? What does the deep apology sound like?
So with my daughter, it would sound like, now I hear what pain you've gone through, and recognizing that my no to you was not only a no to COVID, but for you, it was also an echoing of a lifelong no. And this is what happens when I give that apology. I see you, I see your pain, and I am so regretful of that moment. I wish I'd had the presence and the creativity to reach out for you and see if we could find other solutions together that would work for you as well as for me. How is this for you to hear? That would be an NVC repair. So it is the regret, and in the real case with my daughter, I said I apologize deeply because I know that means something for her to not just have NVC jargon, but to have what is for her the real thing. I apologize. For me, it's more connecting to say I regret. Oh, yes. So sometimes when this happens, the other person will say, but how come you did it? How come you did it? And of course, I may ask them, so are you sure you want to hear my reasons? And if they say yes, then I'll tell them. So I'll let them know what feelings went through me in that moment and what needs I tried to tend to. And it often makes a lot of sense, like the belonging message. And this is easier if I've received empathy or if I've been able to offer self-empathy, which basically is self-empathy. So I would start with, well, Pernille, are you really shocked to know that you've inflicted pain on this person? Yes. Big time shock. Yes, it wasn't my intention. So would you really love to be seen in your innocence? Yes, yes, yes. So that would be the first layer. And the next layer would be, so when you did this, were you having such a sense of impatience? And would you really like efficiency? And was that why you said, okay, so I'd like to move to something different right now? Not in any way imagining that somebody could be hurt by that. Yes, it was because of my need for efficiency. Yes, oh, efficiency, sweet efficiency, I love you. Oh, efficiency, yes. Without leaving anybody behind, because everybody's needs mattering is also important for me. Yes, I love when everybody's needs matter. Yes, oh, so how could I possibly balance these two? Oh, I could have said, I would really love to move to something different now. Is there any objections against this? Oh, and this person might have been able to speak if I'd just given a little bit of a pause. Yes. So if I've given myself those 5 minutes of self-empathy, and then the other person says, so how come you did it? Then it's much easier for me to rest in my own field of gravity, taking full responsibility, letting them know and asking them, how is this for you to hear? Oh, yeah, I'm getting so excited by this. I'm really feeling all these emotions and needs moving about in my body. So for me, emotions are really felt in my torso and sometimes in my face, and needs most often live in the south of my belly button, in the depths of my belly. So in this moment, there is a lot of life there. Yeah. So if my actions have hurt somebody in an asymmetrical power, in a relationship where there is asymmetrical power, I would hesitate a lot with explaining my own my own reasons for doing what I did. So like in the racist example, I was white, the other was a person of color. In the example with my daughter, I was the mother, she was the daughter. In the example with my husband, he was the man, I was the woman who had been gaslit through many years, so I was very small in our relationship. If I'm the NVC trainer who have ease with finding words, and you are new to NVC, there is also an asymmetrical relationship when it comes to power. And I would be very, very careful about your question, why did you do it? I would make sure that I'd understood you first to the depth of your experience. And then only if you, by yourself, asked once again, and I would still like to know, how come you did it, whatever you did, then I would unpack it along with them and invite them into unpacking as well. And especially, children are not here to forgive their parents. No, they are not. And as my Afro-American colleague in the airport, Afro-American people are not here to forgive the whites. So thank you again, Sharon Brown, for doing so. I don't know if anybody knows her, but she has a special star in my system. So the self-defense or self-justification that comes automatically, for that we need to forgive ourselves or self-empathize as well, because this is what we've been taught in our predominant culture. When something goes wrong, it's somebody's fault. If something goes wrong, it's somebody's fault. And if it's somebody's fault, they deserve punishment, which means if it's your fault, you deserve punishment. So who wants to get punished? Nobody. So of course we defend or justify ourselves to get away from the finger that points at us. So here's another piece of work for us that might be needed to do in order to be able to be transparent as I am now. I have definitely worked with those fingers that have been pointing at me. But what if instead we look at ourselves and others as living beings who try to get along, in this complicated web of life, knowing that sometimes, even though we certainly don't intend to, and even though we don't know that that is the result, or that we don't have the capacity to take others' needs into consideration, that we do harm, we do step over somebody's toes. And that the only way we can learn and expand is through feedback. What if we experience us all as interconnected? And if I hurt you, something in me is definitely hurt as well. Because my need for everybody's needs mattering is not met, to say it in a technical term. To say it in a less technical, more emotional way, is that I hold a piece of you in my heart as well. And it hurts me to see you hurt. So if that was the case, if we looked at ourselves that way, wouldn't I then be eager to understand the impact of my actions, really understand all aspects of what I did, how it impacted you, so that I can fully understand and better predict my impact next time. And it might be that something I do, I know that it will most likely hurt you in some way. But if I know it, I can nuance my actions and my words in ways that try to capture it as good as I can. So like my partner, she's such a lovely being. Where would I be without her? I don't know, truly. And she has a very different pace of moving through life than I have. And sometimes I know that I'm going to hurt her when I move with my pace, which is faster than her pace in discussion or action or whatever we do. And as both of us know, it's easier to find ways that work and to repair afterwards. And as this attitude doesn't come naturally, we need some support in order to get there. And if we've done something that we wish we hadn't done, that we regret as we see the impact on other people, a really great thing to do is to seek empathy before we engage in the repair conversation. So we resource ourselves to be able to be present and only be there as a receiver of the other person's experience. So this is what I'd love to demonstrate with one of you. So I need to take a breath and just adjust from being in the broadcasting mode into the receiving mode. So if one of you have been told that you've hurt someone, whether you agree with this information or not, I'd really love you to volunteer, and it'll only be a 5 minutes exchange. And afterwards, the invitation is that you will do it in your breakout groups. And there is an element of volunteering. You don't have to go into a breakout group when you don't have to practice. So Denise has raised her hand. Please, Denise, unmute yourself.
Hi there.
Hi there. Yeah. Would you love to be my demo client?
If you feel that might be suitable.
Yes, yes. I hear you. Your sound gets through very easily. So that is sort of the criteria. So Denise, tell me what you have been told or what you know you've done to somebody.
I like your first sentence, what I've been told. The second sentence, I have resistance because I don't want to own that labeling. I've been told I'm a bully.
You've been told you're a bully. Oh dear. Oh, yeah. I just want you to know that I have shared experience with that. Yes. So I'm wondering if that landed as a shock in you.
I think there's so many layers to it. With the NVC background and with all this training, and I don't know if remember that I have a CFT background, but so understanding that it is the other person's story, yet it doesn't shame me from that pain and that confusion and that. And then eventually when it's say enough time, you kind of question yourself, am I doing that? Am I really crossing the line? And because that was never my intention.
Yeah. So I hear a lot of things from what you're saying. It was never my intention. Yes. So I'm hearing your claim for innocence, or your yeah. How is that to have your innocence recognized?
There's sadness to it because I hold my innocence, yet there's this almost like starting to be wobbly and self-doubt. Oh, am I really doing it? And wanting reassurance and from a third party, because another sadness is knowing that the person that I'm directly dealing with won't have the space, or my assumption. But that sadness of almost like, a proof that connection, that relation there's no turning back. It's really get to that point of feeling that hopelessness, I think.
Oh, yes. So it sounds like there is a sense of loss, of grief.
Yeah, I think so. This to not being seen to that level is almost like,
Yeah. So would it be okay if I guessed some needs?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So do you hold a need precious for everybody mattering?
Yeah, I guess mattering is a deeper level. First want to be seen, and then I wish I have more space also for the other person to make the other person feels seen. And obviously, instead of doing that, I've created pain and hurt, and that hurts me, knowing that happened. And then, yeah, I guess to be seen, and then the layer down under will be everyone's matter, and I feel failing to really offer, what I think is important, but it turns around and not receive, not only not receive, but receive as an attack or something.
Right. Yeah. So do you long to be seen as a person who does care?
Yeah, I think that's almost like a little bit universal. No, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks a lot, Denise. How are you feeling right now after this short exchange?
I am surprised how much sadness is still I'm holding. You saw that when I come through, I was like quite light about it, and yeah, just how quickly that there's still a lot to unpack, I think. And I think that the relationship is, the intensity of that relationship also make it different. If it's someone walk past, maybe it's not as much, but there's so much grieving maybe also in that complex relationship that already carry.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Pernille.
Would it be okay to
yeah, sure.
Yeah, and
I'm grateful for another shot. That's okay.
Beautiful, and how sweet to reconnect with the CFT person. So for the rest of you, CFT is Coaching for Transformation. This is the program that I was referring to before. Yes, sweet. Okay, so so what you will do in your practices, and we won't take any unfolding of this right now, because I want you to have your own experiences, and then we can talk a little bit about it. I would like you to, in groups of 3, and those of you who have put this equation mark in front of your name, you will not be put in breakout groups. You will just stay here in the main room, and there will not really happen anything here, I assume. Probably a little bit of getting people in and out of rooms. So it'll definitely be more fun for you to be in a breakout group. You can also allow yourself to go in a breakout group and just say, I don't want to be a part of the exchange, but I would love to be a witness, which would then mean that the other people in your breakout would get slightly more time for them to work. So this is the instruction. One at a time has a story. And as you saw with Denise, a story need not to be more than 2 sentences. And I would actually really encourage you to only speak 2 sentences, or it's so easy to fill out your 5 minutes with only with story. So speak for 2 minutes of context. I have been accused of, oh, I said this and afterwards I saw the impact. Of course there is a context, and your practice buddies will know there is a context. So of course they will hold you with reverence and with this humbleness that there is a lot they don't know, but still with this little piece, they can support you. So you can tell yourself the intention behind saying or doing what you did, if you want to say that, and how you feel and what needs are activated for you. Or one of your group buddies can ask, as I did with Denise, is it okay for you that I guess some feelings, that I guess some needs? And for the one who holds the story, if you'd like to sit for a moment without words, you can always raise your hand. This means, please pause. Too many words right now for me. I need to feel. And for the observer in the room, you have a very important role. So if the conversation moves out of what I've just described, you will raise your hand and say, please, can we come back to feelings and needs? Please, can we come back to feelings and needs? That's the only sentence you'll say. I feel a little inclined to say, can we all raise our right hand and say, please return to feelings and needs? But I won't do that. But this is very important because it's so easy to be carried away into justification and discussion about why they received it the way they did. No, feelings and needs for the speaker. That's the only thing. So you'll have 5 minutes each, and you will get a 1 minute. So there'll be a lot of messages going in your rooms. So there'll be, when you've gone for 4 minutes, you'll receive a message saying 1 minute left. And then there'll be a message saying, please swap. Then once again, 1 minute left and please swap. And 1 minute left and please swap. And then there will be 30 seconds or so for you to come back to the main room, which means that you'll have 15 minutes in groups and 30 seconds or perhaps 1 minute to come back. And then we will talk a little bit about how your experience was. Welcome back, everybody. Let me look at your faces. How was this? Yeah, I see presence, I think. All right, so I would love to hear from 2 or 3 of you how this experience was.
As a reminder, you can raise your hand physically or raise it with the reactions button, or pop a message in the chat.
And Ingrid, you are raising your hand. Please speak.
I feel very courage today. Yeah, I really want to share something because I was touched about what you said before, and I have a lot of appreciation, okay, for for the vulnerability you bring in this group, yeah, where we don't know each other. And a lot of things you say that it touched me a lot, and I bring this awareness in the breakout rooms, and I find so powerful when people try to really to speak up and show what are their feelings, and finding on the other side a presence, or a person who try, of course we are trying to be here and helping with, I mean, welcome what is coming, what is going out, is going inside of us. So, wow, and it's also relief, at least you're hearing the other people sharing, and it's like, wow, but also they are experiencing what I often do. No, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one dealing with shame and, you know, don't feel good enough in giving empathy and so on. So really grateful for you and
thank you.
People here. Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful, Ingrid. Thank you. Yeah. Turning mistake into a gift moving forward, Sarah from York writes, to be best sponsor you can be today. Yes. All right. So,
I think Brian had his hand up.
Oh, please, Brian.
Okay, I haven't shared these big ones before, but and I actually came on in the middle of your session, but I had 2 great people in the room, and I actually felt very comfortable and sort of secure enough to get stuck in, and in a very short time it was remarkable how things could be sort of dealt with and worked through, and you know, things that could, like these things can go on for days, like the outside world. And actually, one of the people brought up a story that exactly as I would have brought up if I had started first. So there was sort of an easy communication between us, which I really appreciated. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. All right. So I would actually like to show on a graphic what it is we are doing here, or what we will be doing in the next practice. So let me move this one forward so you can see it. So the good old way of justifying what we've done. So when somebody expresses that they are hurt by something we've done, and we say, but this was our intention, what happens is that we leave this person in bewilderment and self-doubt, possibly. So there's no connection. Whereas if we do a repair where we meet the person in their hurt, make sure that we understand it fully, then we can move away together and the relationship has been strengthened. So this is a very precise diagram of what I've been talking about here and what you are practicing. Yeah, I can leave it right there. Okay. So moving to the next little exercise, not little, it's very important. So this is the repair. So you have heard me demonstrate already, and I'll just do it once again. So you will work in pairs this time. And there will be one swap, so that if you want to, both of you will have a chance to go. So one person will be the one who performs the repair, and I suggest you do the repair with the whatever you just brought up in the empathy session, because that you will be well prepared for it. But of course, you can choose anything. And the other one will role play the person who has accused you of having hurt them, or whom you know you have hurt. So the first step is, of course, that you will instruct them a little bit, but only a tiny bit is important. The instruction could be just telling, so I did this to you, or you told me I'd done this to you. And then, of course, we might get a little bit out of sync because the role player doesn't know the whole context, but this is what we'll do. And we will use our time, you'll use your time together on the actual repair, not on understanding the context. So as the role player, don't play this person, but be them. Imagine that this would be you who had been hurt this way, or who had accused the other one of hurting you, so that you can feel if there is a shift happening. And what it could sound like is like if I've showed up with this Afro-American colleague of mine, I would say, thank you for being willing to have a repair conversation with me. I want you to know that I am so sad about what happened back then, and now I would like to hear how it was for you. And then, of course, the role player would say, well, I got hurt because blah, blah, blah. So you need to make up something, basically, from the little piece of instruction you've received. And then it's for the repair provider simply to stay in connection. Yes. Is there anything else you would like me to know? I'm wondering if your need for connection was so not met. So you'll have to, this is actually advanced NVC. So, so if you're not able to just stay with feelings and needs inquiries, make it your own language, but just make sure that you keep the attention on the other person's experience. And you can ask them, so may I try to say what I heard in my own words, and will you let me know if I'm accurate? So it sounds like you were very hurt because you felt I didn't include you in this, and the other person would say, no, it's not that, it's more like that you just discarded me completely. Okay, so you're really hurt because you felt I discarded you completely. Yes, so that's it. So there'll be 5 minutes for each, and a 1 minute warning, and yeah, a 1 minute warning. Yeah, I think that's it, given what we've left of time here together. So we'll do the debrief together, and then a 30 seconds or 1 minute countdown before we meet here, right? So how are we doing with the breakout, Daya? Or
yeah, we're
yeah.
good to go.
Okay, so while you were out in your groups, I had a discussion with Maida, or an exchange, and Maida asked, isn't it taking responsibility for other people's feelings and needs? And in NVC, we learn that we don't have responsibility for other people's feelings. Their feelings spring out of their needs, not of what we do. And yes, it's easy for me to say that it can be understood that way. So I'm happy to have this chance of sharing how I see it. So I see that we are responsible for our actions. And as I want to navigate in a world where I do as little harm as possible, and I want to contribute as much as I can, I do pay interest to the impact of my actions. So I want to open to what the impact is for other people, for me to receive feedback. And at the same time, while I receive feedback with my attention to the other person, I also offer strengthening our relationship, taking it to new depths. I think that is as clear as I can say it. And of course, everything I've been presenting here is for you to receive or to reject if you don't like it. Please don't take anything I say as the truth. Make it your own truth if you want to, through practice. Okay, so we are a very few minutes from closure. So your experiences in the breakouts, please, if you'll write just 1 or 2 sentences in the chat about it while we start to fly into the landing here. And while I say that, also please notice that there is a community space where conversations and discussions and sharings can continue. I don't think I'll be there. No, I won't, because I am going to see my accountant. That is today. So unfortunately, I can't support that. And perhaps it's a good thing that the instructor is not there, so for you to discuss or share whatever comes. So what I want to say is that this is a fundraising event. So if you enjoyed this session, or even if you didn't enjoy it, but just enjoy the opportunity of coming together across the globe, please consider to use PayPal and send a bit of money to CNVC, because CNVC needs it in order to offer scholarships for people who cannot pay for their IITs themselves, and for running the business that they do. The business, it's not a business, the organization that does so much good in this world. Yeah, so the link is in the chat field. And I would like to also name that I am offering one-on-one sessions online. I'm also offering coach training. So at the moment, I'm actual with needs-based coaching, which is a a condensed version of the coaching program that was referenced a moment ago, the Coaching for Transformation. So I've condensed it into a 65 hours education and infused it with more NVC and more resonance. If some of you know the work of Sarah Payton, so it's got an infusion of Sarah's work as well. And it's starting in June, and you can see it on my website. And I'm also organizing a certification course with Sarah Payton. Please write to me if you want to connect with me. It would be a pleasure. Dia just wrote my website in the chat, and you can find me there. And I am very happy to be in dialogue with you about lots of things as far as my capacity reaches. Any last words from you, Adigo?
A big thank you for the session, Pernille. A reminder to everyone, just as has been said, that there's an hour's break when the community room is open, and then the next sessions start, and there are 3 of them on offer. Details are on the site. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for the tech host, for Dia, my assistant, and empathy buddy, and everybody else on the call. I hope to see you again.